thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman
Here.
Schuman.
Here.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen. Alderman Becker. Mayor Harmonson.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum, close, but we're there. So, citizens' communication, this is the time set aside on the agenda for citizens and visitors to address the mayor and board on any topic that is not a public hearing. Why do we have a feedback?
I was gonna say, I got a
Same
squeal
thing.
here.
Is that bugging anybody else?
Yes, I will.
Yes.
It's not
Hurts my
terrible.
hearing aids. To be very honest.
Is it coming out of the monitors that are in front of you? The little speakers? Because I don't.
Possibly. I don't know.
No.
It's only when he speaks.
Let's try it again. For those here in person, speakers will be restricted to 3 minutes unless otherwise permitted. Minutes may not be donated or transferred from one speaker to another. I don't hear it now. Does anybody else?
Yeah.
It's slightly there, yes.
All right. Visitors attending via online will be in listen-only mode. Any questions or comments for the mayor or board may be sent to the city clerk at tberreth@osagebeach.org no later than 10 a.m. on the board meeting day, the first and third Thursday of each month. Submitted questions and comments may be read during the citizens' communications section of the agenda. The Board of Aldermen will not take any action on any item not listed on the agenda, nor will it respond to questions, although the staff may be directed to respond at a later time. The Mayor and Board of Aldermen welcome and value input and feedback from the public. Is there anyone here in person who would like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes of the Alderman meetings, the workshops, regular meeting on the 3rd, and take a look at the bills list? Anybody have any comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Alderman Rucker, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Morose, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion approved. All right, next we're going to move on to unfinished business. We only have 3 items tonight. First is Bill 22-84, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with the Don Schneider, which one? I'm sorry, which one is it? Schneider, thank you. Company for the Amy Lane roadway and Case Road driveway improvement project for an amount not to exceed $184,010. This is a second reading. Assistant City Administrator Mike Welty, please.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. There were 2 questions during the first reading that I was asked to answer. The first one was on the easements. Alderman Rucker, all of the easements have been obtained, so we're in good shape there. And then the second issue was that between the first and the second reading, I had to get permission from the Special Road District to extend the amount needed to the 134,247, and they approved that last night. Everything is in order. As you know, this project will be carried over until the spring, but beyond that, everything's good to go.
All right, thank you very much. Comments or questions from the board?
What
Alderman
is the
Rucker.
projected start date? March, April?
Just as soon as we can get some warm days in and the asphalt plants get started, that'll probably be decided, but I would say late March, early April.
That's all. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Seeing none other, do I have a motion to approve the second reading? Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rucker, roll call, please.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Becker. Alderman Osteen.
All right, second reading passes. Next item is Bill 22-86, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed and 3 easement deeds needed for the Gulfview Lane to Sea Breeze Drive Water Loop project. This is a second reading. Assistant City Administrator Mike Welty, please.
I have nothing to add other than to thank Tara because I was out sick the day this was due and she turned the quick to quit for me. So thank you, Tara.
Comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading? Alderman Schuman, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rose, roll call, please.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Becker. Alderman Osteen.
All right, Second reading passes. Last item, unfinished business, is Bill 22-88, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 150 in the Municipal Code, establishing new 45-day notice deadlines with a process for the city's consideration of redevelopment plans and tax abatements pursuant to Urban Redevelopment Corporation's Law, Chapter 353, in the revised statute of Missouri. This is the second reading. City Attorney Ed Rucker, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to add. I haven't received any comments or questions from anyone, so unless you all have any questions, it's ready for your final decision.
All right, comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Rucker, roll call, please.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Schuman?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen? Alderman Becker?
All right, second reading passes. On to new business. Bill 22-89, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, approving a funding agreement with Tegetoff Development for payment of professional fees to facilitate the board's consideration of the Oasis at Lakeport Development proposal for TIF, CID, TDD, Chapter 100 support. This is the first and second reading. City Attorney Ed Rucker.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. This is the funding agreement with Tegetoff Development, which will allow us to consider the Oasis at Lakeport Development proposal. It pays the professional fees for Mr. Spikerman at Gilmore Bell. It'll pay the professional fees for Columbia Capital and Mr. White when we get to the point of examining how the financing works on this. We have talked to the developers. I've in fact talked to them this week. They willingly raised the deposit from 20 grand to 50 grand, and that is reflected in the agreement you have in front of you. I have no comments further. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. Otherwise, it's ready for your approval and for final adoption tonight so that we can expedite this project.
All right, thank you very much. Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Rucker.
I thought that they were applying for a Chapter 100 and a TDD. I didn't know they were applying for a TIF as well.
We haven't got a formal TIF plan from them yet. What they said on the back of the 4 pages that of the beautiful book they gave us.
Oh, wait,
was-
excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm on a different project. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's where I was going. You're thinking of the one on
Yes.
Nichols Road,
All right.
right?
Yes, sir.
This
Yes.
is the new one.
Yes, sir.
down-
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Down on Jeffries.
My bad. My bad.
Reverse.
Got my brain on a different
No
project.
worries, no worries. All right, any other comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
So moved.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second? Alderman Schuman, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, first reading passes. Second reading, the same bill, 22-89, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, approving a funding agreement with the Tegetoff Development for payment and professional fees to facilitate the board's consideration of the Oasis at Lakeport Development proposal for TIF, CID, TDD, Chapter 100. This is the second reading. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion to
Alderman
approve
Rucker,
second
do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross, roll call, please.
Excuse me, Alderman Schuman?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Becker? Alderman Osteen?
All right, second reading passes. Next, we have a motion to Harper's Cove subdivision preliminary plat. City Planner Kerry Patterson, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. 2 items and the same subject. So while I need a decision on both B and C, one being a motion to approve the preliminary plat of Harper's Cove subdivision, and C being the motion to approve the first and second readings of the final plats of Harper's Cove subdivision, being 2 separate items, I'm going to talk about them at the same time just to kind of keep the situation cohesive for you, and then you can make the decisions after we are done talking. Harper's Cove subdivision, I think everybody is aware that is a piece of property that we rezoned earlier in the year from A1 and C1 to R1 and R3. We knew that the R1 was going to be the first thing that they brought us and the first thing that the developer began development on. And so what we have in front of you today is both the preliminary and the final plats. Now, I know that there are times, especially with condominiums, where the preliminary comes in at one point and we approve the public improvement plans, and then after they get a building built, then we start seeing the finals. Single-family subdivisions typically are a little bit different, but they can handle them in different ways. At some point, the preliminary plat basically shows us what they're wanting to do, and it's also the point where the developer turns in the public improvement plans, which they have done. And then they can go ahead and start putting in the public infrastructure and the streets and roads, and then bring the final plats to us once they have gotten closer to completion of those, so they don't have to give us a letter of credit or a performance bond. In this particular situation, we're looking at all of it at the same time. Both the preliminary plat and the public improvement plans have gone through the review process, and they have been approved by both myself and then our contract engineers at Cochran. We have a letter from Cochran that's within the packet that tells you that they have looked over it and they are ready and like what they've seen from Harper's Cove. And then the final itself is just basically the creation of the lots and the legal descriptions for those lots themselves so they can start transferring title to those pieces of property. Of course, if we're going to do it the way that we are doing it tonight with the final plat, without the public infrastructure being completed, they are required to give us an engineer's estimate and a letter of credit or a irrevocable performance bond, which we do have, and they are in the vault for a decent sum of money that covers the engineer's estimate plus, just in case the city would ever have to go in and execute that performance bond to complete the infrastructure. So everything is in order. We have everything that we need. We have all of the approvals for both the preliminary and the final plat. So I took this to the Planning Commission at their meeting last week, and they send it forward to you with a recommendation to approve.
All right, thank you very much. Comments or questions from the board? All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the preliminary plat?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Schuman, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion is approved. Next, we have, same topic, Bill 22-28. As Carrie said, we're going to do the first and second reading. An ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, approving the final plat for Harper's Cove subdivision. Once again, City Planner Carrie Patterson, you have anything else?
I have nothing further to say
All
unless
right.
you have questions.
All right, do I have a motion to approve first reading, or, I'm sorry, comments or questions?
It's, I think you misspoke, Mayor, so I just wanted to correct you. It's
Okay.
Bill 2290.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Just for the listening audience
I
out there.
appreciate it, yes, 2290. Other than that, other than being corrected, which I'm fine with, but do I have any comments or questions from the board? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Rucker, second. Alderman Morose, got me all flustered. Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. First reading passes. Now, Bill 22-90, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, approving the final plat for Harper's Cove subdivision. This is the second reading. Anything else from anyone? If not, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Schuman, roll call, please.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Next is discussion, the fiscal year 2023 operating budget, salary expenditures. City Administrator Gina Woods, please.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board. So as I stated in my summary sheet, I updated information that we discussed at the last workshop revolving around what to do with salaries. In addition, if any, to the merit increases that are currently in the ordinance that would apply to the salaries for 2023. It was discussed two options for a premium, and that was based on conversation or our compensation consultant recommended for this year due to the labor market, even though there's signs of it leveling off and inflation is coming down a bit, we still have an elevated factor of rising salaries. So the recommendation in general, to start with that, and I know I'm repeating myself from the last workshop, the recommendation is to consider an increase in salaries at a range of 6.5 to 8.3. So with that, I separated out two options that would be in addition to our merit percentages of 4% premium, what we're calling a premium, or 5.2%. Now, initially, I had scheduled this to estimate salaries based on the merits, based on where everybody is in the quartiles. So as we all know, our pay plan is divided up into 4 quartiles. So if you're in quartile 1 as you enter employment, your raises are a tad bit heavier. As you move to quartile 4, they taper off. So they're weighted through the 4 quarters. And that is how our merit matrix program is in our human resource and policy. And that is a set amount annually until we decide differently. Last year, we did a 7% premium because of inflation and because of competitiveness, and it equated to about a 10.2% average across the board for all employees. So those that were getting their merit, because there are group employees that don't enter the merit program until they're past probation, and then plus the premium. This year, I don't think it is a need for such a high premium, but to meet the expectation or the recommendation of our consultant, I broke it down to 2 options, and it's at your pleasure to do. The packet information breaks down the estimate of if we would do a 4% premium on top of our merit matrix, or we do a 5.25% of our merit matrix. And plugging that into the employees that are in the specific quartiles and estimating based on their last evaluation, because so there is some estimations that go on with this. The average, if we would do a 4%, the average would be 6.9% for all employees. And that would apply to even those, that includes the averages of even those that are in the probationary period, which we don't consider have kind of entered into the merit program until you've been here a year. If we would do a 5.25% premium on top of our merit matrix, that would equal out to an average of 8% average increase for employees. And then I also showed what it would be if we choose not to do a premium. We would be doing an average increase of 3.3. And again, that's based on the specific positions that we currently have filled, those we expect to fill that would enter into quartile 1. And so that would, so the 3.3 doesn't meet the recommendation. And I do think we owe it to stay competitive, and due to the economic conditions, we should attempt to meet the recommendation for the consultants. So one other further request I have that's not included in your sheet is what the effects would be if we would, instead of applying the premium, whichever one is chosen, flatly across the board. In other words, everybody that's employed as of January 1st, 2023 would get the premium. Same all around, didn't matter what quartile you're in, doesn't matter where you're at in the merit program. In addition then to the evaluations, that's how that is presented here. So in addition to that, I had some conversations with aldermen that to apply the premium in the same weighted philosophy as the merit program. So what that would do is further move your quartile 1 employees faster to quartile 2, and quartile 2 a little, it would be heavy weighted on quartile 1 as our merit matrix. Majority of our hard to fill positions, you're entering in those into the quartile 1, and that's where you have your turnover. Now, I did apply some analysis into the different pay plan levels, and we do have some positions in those levels that have a turnover issue, but those employees that are already in those levels or positions, I know Alderman, 911's a good example. Those that are already employed are well within the pay plan. They've been here a long time, but they also would get the premium. So if you would choose, and I don't have the numbers on the average effect if we would weight the 4% or 5.2. But I have a feeling that the percentages would be very similar. It would just be how you're applying it per quartile. So for example, if you wanted to weight the 4% that's in addition to the merit program as the premium, for example, anybody in the first quarter would get the full 4%. If you were in the second quarter, 3.5, third quarter, 3%, and then fourth quarter, 2.5. So that would be an example of how that could weight. With that being said, if you were in the fourth quartile and you got exceeds, you would get a 5% versus your, in 5% that would include the merit plus the premium. If we did the 5.2%, and you were in the fourth quarter and got an exceeds, that would be 6.25%, versus if you got an exceeds in your first year, it'd be 9.25. And I know I'm throwing numbers out and it's not something you can look at, but I really need direction on what level of premium you feel you're comfortable with. Both of them meet the intent or the recommendation of the consultant. And if it is your preference on the premium to do it across the board equally, or is it your preference to want to weight it heavier in the first quartile, which is your new employees coming in and moving them through the quartiles. One thing I forgot to add, A or B, regardless if we weight them, well, I'm sorry, I can't really say that. I don't know the weight effect, but A or B as presented flat across the board does move multiple employees out of quartile 1 and some out of quartile 2 into quartile 3. So the purpose of me saying that is it's doing what we want it to do, because last year we really had to step up and beat compression. So last year at this time, post the 7% premium, we had 38% of our employees in the combined second and third quartile, 38%. Either 4 or 5 were substantially the same, because it was just a percentage difference. If we choose 4 or 5, A or B, the 4% or 5.25%, it is estimated that we will now have anywhere from 52% to 55% of our full-time employees in quartile 2 and 3. So it's doing what it's intended to do and addressing that economic, the economic conditions and the compression that we've had years of built up. And we had stated last year it would take probably 2 years. So it is doing what it's supposed to do. I guess, again, my direction I need is 4% premium in addition to merit, or 5.25, and is it your preference to weight the 4 or the 5.25 by quartiles or not?
Thank you. This is a discussion item, so who would like to make a comment? Alderman Rucker.
Got a number of different things, but the first would be with what you're presenting, and for easiness, I want the 5.25.
That's right.
Okay, so let's just talk about that. That way we can
Sure.
make it easier, I think. If we go with the 5.25 and we do the weighted by quartile, okay, so that those in the first quartile will receive a more premium, not the base merit, but a more premium, okay? Because we're not messing with the base merit.
Correct.
Okay. So if we do that, you're saying that the first quartile will get has a bigger potential, and than the second, then the third, and then the fourth, okay? I have taken a little bit different take to that, but before I throw my thought into the mix here, let me make sure I understand your thought. Will that accomplish raising the salary of the positions that we are challenging and are having challenging with, and I won't be beat around the bush? Dispatch, Public Works, and police.
So I'm
Would
going to
that
give you,
address that? Would that give those positions a little more of a bump up? I know it's going to give others, but would that do that?
those in the current, let me address two sides to that. Those the vacant position and the already filled positions. So those in the department, like all departments, if you're in the one, that will move them faster, just like all the department. Will it address, though, give them a bump up for those not been hired? Indirectly, yes. We already, for a couple of different positions that have been hard to fill, I already authorize anywhere from 8 to 12% above minimum. So as you're moving employees in 1 and 2 on current employees, that also will give me more leeway for fairness to start them even higher than that, should we feel we need to. So yes and no. Or yes and.
That's clear.
You have to, I can't speak, if they're not employed as of January 1st, the premium and the merit affects all employees that are employed as of January 1st. But if you have, just theoretically, if you have your most newest employee in whatever department, and they're the most newest, and this is where they're at in the hourly rate range, and there's a gap between where they're at and the floor to that job, well, then you've got a bigger gap that you can, based on experience and based on need, for starting pay without having a domino effect for the other department. So yes, it does help.
Well, let me ask a direct question. Does it raise the entry-level salary?
It doesn't by this ordinance, but by practice, yes. My practice,
Okay.
yes.
That, because I believe that's one of the challenges we have to have. We have to do something with that entry level
Yep.
in those positions, so.
Yes.
Okay, well, before I throw the other two, because I have 3 things that I want to do, but before I throw the other 2 of mine out there, let me make sure everybody is okay with where you're at there, and then I'll try not to muddle up the things too much.
All right, comments, questions over here? Alderman Ross?
I just have one, and that is generally the answer to the 2 questions. 5.25 is what I support, and I do support that it be weighted. I mean, the objective here in my mind is to reduce vacancy and turnover. And the experience that I have here anyway is that vacancy and turnover is some of the position that Kevin's talked about. They're the lower grade levels within our department, within our city. And so why is that so important? Well, it's really hard to drive your business forward when you don't have enough people, and the people you're constantly working with are people that aren't very well trained and don't have a lot of tenure. And it's really hard. I mean, it's like trying to run a restaurant without people. Yeah, you hire some people, but you're still just playing whack-a-mole, for lack of a better term, and you can't go forward. And the time and energy that it takes for the police department, between the 911 and so forth, and especially in the sewer over in Public Works, no wonder we continue to struggle with some of the things that we're trying to do. So to answer your question, Gina, the 5.3 and so forth, and the weighted is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see that weighted within those lower grade levels. And I'll leave it at that for so far.
Alderman Rose, anything?
I concur totally.
Alderman Schumer? Alderman Rucker, back to you.
Okay, I just want to throw it out there, not that I'm saying that this is the way to go, but I took a little bit different approach, and I'm not digging in saying this is the way I want to do it, but while we're throwing stuff on the table, let me throw this on the table. I threw out that we would take level 6 and level 7 and give them a 6% premium. Level 8 and level 9, a 5%, and level 10 and above, 4% across the board.
I'm cheating on your sheet, so I know what you're
Oh,
saying.
you're looking at my, look, you
like-
you can read all that scrabble I got there? And the reason I took that approach was I was like, okay, you know, and this is again, we're talking about the premium, okay? That was just an approach that I took. I thought that dollar-wise, and I haven't run the numbers, but I thought dollar-wise, it would probably be pretty close to that, the same cost of what that 5.25 probably would be, okay? And again, and I ran some basic numbers for me on each of those different levels at what that would do dollar-wise, and dollar-wise, even though the percents are different, dollar-wise, it makes them almost the same dollar-wise, even though the percents are different. That was just an approach. If it accomplishes the same thing if you think that would accomplish the same thing, I don't care which method. I'm wanting to accomplish similar to what Richard had mentioned, and the dispatch thing, I'll take that as a third issue, and that's my third item, so I don't want to muddle up, but that was just, it was just a thought. I'm sorry I didn't get with you earlier, but to be very honest, about 2 o'clock this afternoon is when I finished this.
I understand. The only comment I would have, just brainstorming out loud, is I believe Richard's, what he has proposed weighted by quartile and not by level, accomplishes more of a direct effect to moving people through the quartile. We had 25% of our staff new in 2022. So that's a lot of people in quartile 1, and like Richard said, rightly so, we have around 100 full-time employees, and we processed 27 new employees, but 2 of them were also on the terminated list. So net 25 throughout, so to date on 2022. So that's why, so you do have a lot of new employees, which rightly so, they're learning their job and they're training, but that jump starts them. So in my opinion, in the end, the dollar amounts are probably the same. It affects different people differently, but that has a more direct effect on the quartiles regardless of where you're at in the levels and moving them through. That'd be my only mathematical brainstorm.
So I don't know if I understood what you're saying there. Richard's smiling because.
I'm not sure what I proposed. I just wanted to get the
No.
folks on the front line more money. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Well-
Where we've got vacancy and where we've got turnover.
Right.
And so if that's different than what Kevin said, I'm not sure how it's different, I guess.
Well, mine would go across the board, and I understand, and I didn't understand this here
Okay.
until tonight. And what I think is that Plan A, we'll call it, okay, and mine's Plan B. Plan A would give more to those newer employees.
Regardless of where they're at here.
Right. And I support that better, so I think that would be better than, even though I think mine's a close second.
It's,
But I think that while we're trying to solve, I think that solves it maybe a little bit better.
Okay, so you're in agreement with the 525 and the weighted. All right, and then you had something on.
And the other thing I would offer, not necessarily to go into effect at this pay plan, okay, or this year. It could go whenever, but I would like to definitely see something by next budget, if not before. And that is in reference to our dispatch. I went through and did some kind of looking around. I talked to some friends of mine up in the St. Louis metropolitan area, to be very honest, that are still in the business and not retired yet. So, and I think there's something we could do maybe to help our dispatch situation out. We have entry-level parks, water, sewer, and transportation. And we have an opportunity for an entry-level employee to do what I call some advancement or some way that they can do some things to see that I'm not at the end of my tunnel. You know, I can go from a level 1 to a level 2 to a level 3. I mean, it depends on what, but there's that possibility. We're missing that with dispatch. What we have in dispatch is I enter as a dispatcher, and there is, when we're full staff, there's 9 of us, and there's 2 people that are considered lead dispatchers and 1 person that's a dispatch. I don't have much career movement as a dispatcher. I think that we should look at having, similar to what we have in the other divisions of the city, multiple opportunities for them to advance, whether you call it level 1, 2, 3, or what I call it is dispatch, lead dispatch, shift supervisor, and dispatch supervisor. Dispatch would be level 6, lead dispatch would be level 7, shift supervisor would be level 8, which is the people that are already in that position, and then your dispatch supervisor is 9. What I'm adding there is an opportunity for those folks to be able to make some step-ups. I'll be happy to visit with Todd later with some thoughts and some ideas on, because I know that you just don't want to throw it out there. You got to have what it takes to move up those levels. I think there's some things that we could do. It's again, I'll be happy to, with my experience in dispatching and in emergency services, but I think that might be something we could do to help out, help that area out and helping an employee that comes in that can say there is something there that they can grow into. So that was, because I made an issue about the dispatch, and that's something I think that, and if we can move into that area March, April, May, June, I mean, but I don't think we have to do anything with it, the budget totally, even though we'll have a few dollars balance. But those are my
Gotcha.
thoughts.
Good points. As far as the discussion item tonight, and I do agree, that's good points on those, but I think the consensus is 5.25 in the weight, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Does that provide what you need? Gina?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you much.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Can I tag on to that?
Certainly.
So this is a budget item, but not a pay plan item. So I forwarded to the board an email that I received. It was about the Veterans Memorial. And I know that we've all kind of looked at that. There's been some different discussions. And I know that it's work in progress, okay? But the $145,000 was a concern of the citizens, of the constituents. And I guess as I've looked at it and tried to figure out, what is the right thing and what isn't, I think we should have a memorial. I think right out in front is a great idea. But I'm hoping that we can put a deserving memorial together that is less than $145,000 and honestly significantly less. Now, that doesn't mean $10,000. That's not what I'm talking about. But, and so at this point, I'm not trying to say we should change the budget. I'm not trying to put a motion together for a line item change. I'm just saying that if it comes back, I'll just say this, if it comes back in whatever it is, February, April, June, whenever we get bids or whatever, and it's $145,000 or very close to that, I'm probably not going to support that much money. I'll leave it at that. I don't know how others think about that.
Are you identifying that as a lot of what the city would expend?
Correct.
Okay, that's fine. That's good, because there's, I
Correct.
didn't get recognized, excuse me.
That's all right, you got it.
Because there's some other ways that that project can come forth, and the city writes maybe a smaller check and.
Well, I would, if you don't mind, Mike and I had a conversation, and Mike said that there's some strategies that he has, maybe through some donations or some other participations, where that we can significantly reduce that, and I hope we're able to do so.
All right, very good. All right, last item. I think we're going to be needing this here pretty soon, but it's a motion to appoint 2 new members to the TIF Commission by Mayor Harmison. If you don't know the folks, the 2 people, we have Tim Gardner. He has Smart Printing Postal down the road, business owner. He's been here quite a while and does several things if you don't know him. And then the other person is Bob Van Hook, one of the owners of Coral Reef. They have both accepted the offer of the appointment, and so I brought it to the meeting tonight to approve. So any comments or questions from the board about the 2 appointees? Alderman Ross.
Real quick, I think they're great suggestions.
Alderman Ross is the one who came to me with Mr. Van Hook, and we had a great conversation, willing to serve, and so is Mr. Gardner. So, any other comments or questions?
I'm all for it.
Super. All
Can
right.
I add one thing?
Certainly.
When whoever does a motion, the 2 things that we do need addressed are currently the 2 vacant seats have expiration date, one of June 1st, 2023, and the second, or the next, another vacant seat is June 1st, 2026. So either we'll go in alphabetical order or whatever, but identify which one you want in the 23 or 26. But I also know there were some initial changes to the TIF Commission, so I just want to make aware of, right now, we have 3 in 2026 and 1 in 23, and these technically are filling vacated seats of already expiration dates. So if you can identify which one will be which, if not, staff will, I don't know, flip coins.
Yes, sir. Alderman Rucker.
As you know, I'm familiar with the ordinance.
Figured you would be.
And the ordinance was written in such a way so that the board can, from time to time, clear up or make things smoother. Unfortunately, the city have not done a good job on meeting the intent of the ordinance originally by having different people coming due and a flow of people. This is why if we follow we follow the expirations of those folks, we don't have a good evenly weighted time frame when people are coming off of this TIF commission. And the objective behind that is so that hopefully they will stay on their full term and we have an even flow of experienced people with new people. That's the whole intent. I would like to suggest and would be happy to make a motion that Mr. Gardner's term expire in 2024 and Mr. Van Hook's term expire in 2025. That would help to balance out with the existing people we have on the board, so we would have an even flow, not with the intent that these people would leave at that time, would hopefully serve another tenure of 4 years, but that would hopefully start to kind of space things out. And I'd be happy to make a motion unless there's some discussion.
Any discussion, or would you like Mr. Rucker to make that motion? 'Cause I think
Gene,
it
is
sounds-
there any concern with that from an ordinance? Okay, just making sure you're comfortable. I'm good.
All right. Alderman Rucker.
I make a motion to accept the mayor's recommendation for Mr. Tim Gardner for his term to expire in 2024, June 1st of 2024, and to accept the mayor's recommendation for Mr. Bob Van Hook for his term to expire June 1st, 2026.
Very good.
25.
Or, excuse me, 2025.
25, yeah.
25.
And I was going to correct you and say June 1st, but you added that too. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Rose, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good. All right, let's move on to the staff communications. Oh, and Gina, and that's something that you'll contact them, the two new members of TIF?
Tara actually will put that together and we can confirm that they are official now and.
Very good.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much. All right, staff communications, City Administrator Gina Woods.
I don't have anything other than have a safe and happy Thanksgiving and remember offices will be closed next Thursday and Friday.
Oh, I didn't know that, thank you.
Just checking. Are you serious?
I didn't know that. I knew Thursday, but,
We will not be here, but you're welcome to come
okay,
work.
all right, well, thank
Knew
you.
it when I saw the sign out front, is what I found out.
Next week.
All right, Assistant City Administrator Mike Welty.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I do want to just echo what Alderman Ross just said. I am meeting with members of the Elks Lodge on December the 7th, and we're going to try and see if we can figure out ways to reduce our cost and increase their investment into the project. We've got a couple of different ways that we think we can do that. So we will be working hard to try and make that happen for sure. And then the second thing, I want to just give you an update on industrial. It does, right now, we're kind of on the fence. It looks like the last section may have to wait until spring. We are going to get past Chapel, and we're going to probably have curb and gutter all the way down to the Parkway, and maybe even the apron where the Parkway where the Parkway and Industrial meet. But due to weather issues and due to several sewer lines that have been hit over the course of the project, they've lost probably about 14 days, and we are running out of good weather to get this done. So I am not quite sure yet, but it is a distinct possibility that we will probably finish the last, 10th of the project in the spring. So just be aware of that. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. City Attorney Ed Rucker.
Nothing tonight.
That was quick. All right, Chief Davis.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
All right, building official Ron White.
Yes, I will just make mention and say thank you to the board for allowing me the opportunity to attend training last week. We had the Missouri Association of Building and Fire Officials, they call it the Mega Conference here at luxurious Lake of the Ozarks at the Margaritaville venue. And we had International Code Council instructors there teaching 2.5 days of classes on the ones I attended were the International Building Code, various topics. So thank you for that opportunity. And everything else is going pretty well. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. City Planner, Kerry Patterson.
Nothing more for the group, Mayor.
All right. We don't have Public Works, Specialists, Airport, Parks Manager, Eric Gregory.
Yeah, park staff have been hard at work and bundled up this week, finishing up the holiday lights. Snowing pretty good yesterday morning, so we should have everything finished up by tomorrow, and that event will start on December 1st and run through the 31st nightly from 5 to 9. So please come out to City Park and check it out. We do have sponsorship opportunities still. If a local business or organization is interested, give the Parks and Rec office a call if you'd like to have your a sign at one of the holiday lights to display your business. So other than that, happy Thanksgiving.
All right, thank you very much. Economic Development Specialist, Mitchell Moon.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. It's been a wonderful week in the Office of Economic Development. I think I've met with more than half of the aldermen this week, but all is well inside of the office, and looking forward to eggs and issues tomorrow morning with Eric, I believe, is going with me as well. So it's been a wonderful week. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Rucker.
Yes, Mayor, I have a couple items. First of all, I want to give a shout out to the Water Department. I know it's a project there that they've started endeavoring on and painting our nasty-looking fire hydrants, and those that they have are looking very good. For those of us in the fire service, that means a lot. It's a lifeblood for us. So it's nice to be able to recognize them as they get them painted looking good. Second of all, the webinar that are available through Municipal League was made aware of that at the meeting that was here at City Hall, where I learned a lot about the marijuana, the new marijuana laws and stuff, and so I just don't know, Gina, if you've thought about sharing this, and you're welcome to that copy, but I see an awful lot of free, great education for our staff that's available that they can do, and I would hope we don't have to assign those to them, but they would be willing to take and look at those things. But I think there's some good education there that would be worthwhile. I would also like to acknowledge our third quarter employees for the third quarter. Cindy Lay, even though she's retired and not with us, but was well deserving of that. Stephen Reiner with the police department, and Thomas, and how does he pronounce his last name?
Ellinger.
Ellinger. Thomas Ellinger, which is the geek GIS guy, and he is very good at it from what I learned here, and with Public Works, and so congratulations for those three employees that received honors for the third quarter. The last meeting, we had discussion on streets, and hopefully we gave Mike some guidance. There was some discussion at that meeting and some I don't want to call it a disagreement, but some difference of opinion in reference to our streets. I did some research, and I just want to clarify this, and if this is not the understanding of everybody, I wish they would please let it be known so that we all are on the same page. We in the city have one set of street guidelines. That's in our ordinance. This is the guidelines that we have that tells us how streets are to be designed. It doesn't say new, it doesn't say old. These are how they're to be done. And it identifies widths and lengths, or not lengths, excuse me, widths and et cetera, and it has to do with the amount of cars, transportation, et cetera. We have a number of different procedures for us to follow. But there's difference between procedures and guidelines. Only one set of guidelines for every street. Our procedures tell us that if it's a brand-new street coming in, that the staff can accept them as long as they meet this table 100%. If they don't meet this table 100%, new or existing, the staff cannot accept them. The board has to take action on it. When we talk about existing streets that are not meeting this table here, according to the procedures, there are procedures that guide the board to accept those into inventory. The staff cannot do that. We created within these procedures some guidelines for the board to use to help us accept them into inventory. That specifically talks about the number of vehicles that go down the road, and that we would, where'd my sheet go? Here we go. And that we would allow existing streets within the city as long as they have an ADT, which is the amount of vehicles that go down, which should be lesser than a new street. So the procedures here are telling us that if we have an existing street that does not conform to our guidelines and their traffic flow is of a certain amount, that here's the guidelines that we have to do that. So that's kind of confusing a little bit, but it was made, there was a statement made or a feeling made that we have two different guidelines. We only have one guideline. It's just the procedures on how we proceed with that. And the staff can accept it as long as it meets this. If it doesn't meet this, the board has to. So I hope that's not making it more confusing, because it's a process that we did put in place. And a lot of time was spent a number of years ago because we wanted to make it friendlier for the roads that do not conform to our specific guidelines. So hopefully that hasn't made things more unclear. A shout out to Dan Fields. Dan Fields is a writer, editor, retired editor, portion, I don't know what exactly, but Dan's involved and has been for a number of years in Lake Sun. If those of you that don't get the paper, haven't seen it, the Wednesday, November 16th paper, I would suggest that you pick it up, try to get a hold of it. Dan has on the front page written an article. It's the facts, as Dan is good at. There was a lot of information out there on social media about the preservation of Sycamore Creek and what the city did wrong according to the social media. And Mr. Dan Field has, as he has done in the past, has written a very good article explaining exactly what, when, and where. And I will let you read it. I'm not going to sit here and read it for you, but if those of you out there in social visiting land that aren't with us want to get the paper as well, it clears everything up and it tells you what's what, because Dan's a very good reporter, and I thank you, Dan, for doing it. That's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Schuman.
I was going to give the same shout out to the third quarter winners, but also to those who are nominated, because being nominated is also a pretty good honor, and it gives you a good achievement. Happy Thanksgiving, and I'm very excited for the holiday lights. My kids have already been asking about it because they've seen the ones up on the, going up on the parkway, so they're very excited for that. So we will definitely make several trips through there. It's always a good, hey, if you're good, we'll go through. So, and I encourage everybody to go through it because it is a really neat display. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Rose.
Well, I too attended the webinar on the recreational medicinal marijuana. I found it extremely interesting. The one thing that I really found interesting is something to think about, and I know I brought it up before, and we need to discuss it, of course, more in detail, and even to see if we could even get it to an ordinance, because municipalities, once things are established, now that the amendment's been passed, of municipalities can charge an additional 3% tax and we could keep that 3% and use it for water and sewer lines or whatever we wish. And I think it's extra revenues that the city could be looking at. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. So happy Turkey Day and stay safe and enjoy the families.
Thank you very much. Alderman Ross.
Just wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I hope staff gets 2 days away and completely, detaches from the business. And I have a lot to be thankful for, but I will say I'm very thankful I'm not in Buffalo. 4 foot of snow sounds terrible.
Yes.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Alderman Rucker?
Yes, Mr. Ross, would you please update us on the
Oh, yes. On the Grand Harbor, I'm sorry,
on
thank
Grand
you for
Harbor
reminding
pool,
me.
please.
So Grand Harbor, to my knowledge, no one, the last I spoke with them, they said they've talked to their insurance company, they're waiting on their insurance company. There was a suggestion that I put out to them that, we try to figure out how to hire a independent adjuster, because that's really what the insurance company provides, is some type of an adjustment process that figures out what the amount is, what is a fair amount for this claim. And that was not, they were not interested. And that's been about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. And, we've suggested bidding out a scope of work we could agree on. They didn't want to do that. We've suggested, or at least I have suggested, some type of independent auditor, because there are independent auditors that are licensed through the state of Missouri. And I'm sure companies that don't have a lot of, business don't use independent adjusters, excuse me. But they didn't want to do that. So I'm not sure how to move this forward, and they want to wait for their insurance company, so I suggest we wait.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I only had 2 things, now I have 3. Alderman Rose, next meeting on your 3%, you may just see something.
Okay.
So we're on top of that, so
Thank
thank you
you.
for reminding us. Also, as the Elks Parade, it was a great parade, it was a little chilly, but thanks to the police and the Elks, it was a good showing, and we get at the Elks Lodge, and Phyllis says, "Were you in the parade?" I said, "Well, I was there." She didn't see me, but it was a great parade. I'm glad everybody showed up. I mean, and I have a deep care for the Elks and the veterans, so thank you, everybody. I know we have a meeting beforehand, but if they still have spots open for the Christmas parade in Lake Ozark on the 10th. So if anybody wants to be in that, you can be in that as well. The only other thing I have is happy Thanksgiving, and everybody have safe travels if you're going any place. And thanks for letting me know we get Friday off too next week.
Thursday and Friday.
All right. With that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Alderman Rose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Schuman, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.